April 2nd, 1972. Near the DMZ in central Vietnam, 13 Americans will soon die in a massive effort to bring one downed pilot home. His call sign is Bat-21, and his story is legendary. Colonel I. Seal Hamilton navigates a radar-jamming jet, escorting B-52s on a bombing run over North Vietnam. Hamilton is a 28-year veteran, just 9 months from retirement. The jets fly high, 32,000 feet, well out of the reach of all enemy weapons but one. The SAM, or surface-to-air missile. Just minutes after crossing into North Vietnamese territory, Hamilton spots what they fear most. A SAM is headed straight for their plane at nearly twice the speed of sound. The plane's captain, Wayne Bolte, tries to evade, but it's too late.
As soon as we got hit, he gives me the signal to go, and I go. The last thing I saw of Wayne Bolte was him waving at me as I was going out the hatch. He should have been there. He should have been right behind me. But he wasn't. And he wasn't because the second missile hit the airplane right after I got out.
Hamilton is the only one to punch out alive. Just seconds after the explosion, the 53-year-old aviator finds himself floating 6 miles above the North Vietnamese countryside.
First thing I could think of is, what in the world am I doing here? It became very evident in a few minutes I was there because I didn't have an airplane to fly. But coming down, it's absolutely noiseless. Hanging there in a parachute is the most eerie feeling that you've ever had in your life. You can hear nothing. You have absolutely no feeling of movement. You don't hear any wind. After you break out of that, you realize that you aren't sitting still. You're moving pretty good.
It takes Hamilton 20 minutes to drift to Earth. When he hits ground, his escape and evasion instruction kicks in.
I didn't think I learned anything in these survival schools. But as soon as I hit the ground, I found myself doing things automatically that I had learned in 1951. Didn't even have to think about it.
In Vietnam, rescue missions for downed pilots are a daily affair. Minutes after getting the word that Hamilton's plane has been shot from the sky, a rescue team is sent to get him. Hundreds of American pilots have already been captured during this war. Thousands have been rescued. Both sides know that the first hour is crucial.
We could have come in within the first hour in a normal search and rescue, combat search and rescue. Within the first hour, your chances of getting somebody out are fairly high.
83, Roger, we're on our way over.
On this day, chance is not on their side. As soon as the American rescue choppers arrive, the jungle below erupts in enemy fire, knocking them out of the sky. 3 rescuers die in the first of what will be many bloody attempts. Shaken and disoriented, Hamilton digs in for a second night. What he and U.S. flyers don't yet realize is that the 53-year-old colonel has landed in the midst of a massive enemy force.
When we finally went down over the top of him to fix his position, that's when we saw people, tanks, trucks, and lots of anti-aircraft fire. What I saw was more enemy targets than I'd ever seen before, I can say that.
30,000 Vietnamese troops are preparing an assault against the South. And Encircling them and Hambleton is an iron ring of anti-aircraft guns and surface-to-air missiles. Hambleton's presence has not gone unnoticed.
They knew there was an American someplace. The lieutenant colonel in those days was worth about $900 to $1,000, dead or alive.
His experience base covered the whole spectrum of electronic warfare, and this made him one of the most desirable potential prisoners the North Vietnamese could have had. Frankly, if he had been captured, we'd have never heard from him again.
But I made up my mind as soon as I hit the ground that I was going to get out of there. I made up my mind I was not going to go to Hanoi. I made up my mind that I couldn't do this to my wife. I kept thinking that way. You're going to make it, you're going to make it, you're going to make it.
Over the next 4 days, 4 more rescue missions are launched. Each fail, resulting in more downed aircraft and more American casualties. NVA troops scour the jungle for the stranded airmen.
They came up within about 15 or 20 feet of me. They sat down, lit their cigarettes, and I thought they were just sitting there teasing me. I thought, well, just let me get up and say, here I am, take me to your leader. And I thought, no. Finally, they got up and left.
With only rainwater to drink and nothing to eat, he is hungry, exhausted, and losing grasp of reality. The next morning, Hambleton uses his radio to guide in a chopper sent to drop him food.
We're going down as fast as we can go. This thing won't go any faster.
As he watches the resupply ship approach, the surrounding jungle falls strangely silent. It seems empty, safe.
Roger, Neil. I have you in sight here.
Encouraged, the pilot decides to drop down, end the fiasco, and bring the colonel home.
Survivor, bring the survivor. Roger that, ready.
As soon as they dip below the treetops, their world explodes in a barrage of fire.
Okay, talk to me. We're coming out. Survivor, finish secure. Let's get the hell out.
There's only one time that I kind of lost hope, and that was when they shot the Jolly Green down. He was only about a minute and a half or 2 minutes picking me up and getting me out of there. And he finally went up in a ball of flames, and I thought that might be it.
So far, 10 men have died to save Bat 21.
In this particular case, the number of people and aircraft that we had lost, the question started to come as to how many can we lose? Because it was quite obvious that the traditional ways that we had done it, which is to surround the survivors, soften up the defenses, and bring the helicopters in, was not working in this case.
U.S. commanders order an end to the air rescues and secretly devise a daring plan. Dressed as a Viet Cong soldier, Navy SEAL Tom Norris will go in by boat.
Tommy Norris is quite an individual. He's a very polite gentleman, very quiet, but you always have the sense when you're around him that he's totally aware of everything that's going on around him, almost as if he has eyes in the back of his head. And his persona, even though it is very polite, he's quick to laugh, he exudes this subtle message that says, don't mess with me.
Norris plans to navigate a sampan through enemy lines and pick up Colonel Hambleton along the banks of the Cam Lo River. It is a suicidal mission. Bat 21's riverbank rendezvous is a long shot. To get there, he'll have to zigzag several miles past crowded villages, flooded rice paddies, and thousands of enemy troops. To guide him through this gauntlet, Hambleton's rescuers radio with an ingenious plan, one that prying Vietnamese ears will not understand.
He said, we're going to play 18 holes of golf. You're going to go from here to the Swanee. You get to the Swanee, you're going to act like Esther Williams and Charlie the Tuna. And I called him again. I said, you sure you're not drunk or something? No, listen to it. And I did, and I sat there and thought of it a little bit, and I think, gee, that's pretty easy. the Swanee River. They're going to walk me to the river. I get to the river, Esther Williams, great swimmer, get across the river, Charlie the tuna, don't get caught. Right? I figured it out, and I said, I think I got it.
Hambleton is an avid golfer. His directions through enemy lines will be based on the layout of the golf holes at his favorite courses.
He says, okay, we're going to play number 1 at Tucson National, first hole. So I played that number 1 hole 1,000 times, southeast, 408 yards long. So I walked off what I thought 408 yards. I called him. He says, I finished hole number 1. He says, you out in the open? I says, no. You got a good hiding place? I says, Roger. He says, okay, now we're going to play number 2. Number 2, we're going to play number 5 at Shaw Air Force Base.
Halfway through his journey, he gets a golf hole that will take him straight into a nearby village.
He says, don't worry. He says, you remember there was some F-4s in here last night? And I says, yes, I remember that. He says, well, don't worry about it. You can go through the village.
The bustling village has been leveled by airstrikes. On his way through its burning remains, the famished American spots a chicken.
I've been on the ground now 7.5 days, nothing to eat. And I thought, oh boy, chicken, you gonna taste good. So I started out after the chicken. And when I'm chasing the chicken, there's something chasing me. So I stopped and we had a little confrontation. It could have been a little boy, a little girl, I don't know. But I wasn't gonna take any chances. I had a weapon. About that long and sharp as a razor. That's all I'm going to say.
11 days after punching out of his jet, Hambleton makes it to the river and waits for Norris. Just a couple of miles away, the Navy SEAL and South Vietnamese volunteer Nguyen Van Kiet paddle past enemy positions. They drift by hundreds of soldiers and a stream of tanks and trucks.
They paddle along, and they get into a little fog bank. They paddle through the fog, can't see very much, it's very thick, and all of a sudden they pop out of the fog, and they realize they're underneath the bridge at Cam Low, which is still up, still operating, has not been destroyed, and there are enemy troops and vehicles on top of the bridge. They've gone too far.
Realizing their mistake, the two turn back downriver, hoping to find Hambleton before their luck runs out.
But I looked back down behind me, and I saw this little boat, little sampan. And I thought, oh boy. And looked up, and here's a Vietnamese sitting in the front of it. And he's got a rifle, which I thought was an AK-47. And I thought, well, this is it. And then I saw the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. His name is Tom Norris. Well, you can see his round eyes. And you knew he was American. And I thought, well, maybe it's not all so bad after all. And I just flipped the water. And that boat stopped just like that. And I heard somebody say, Colonel. I said, Roger. He says, white. I said, red. He said, well, get your butt in here and let's get the heck out of here. Threw me in the sampan, and away we went, paddling down the river.
The trip to safety takes 6 hours. Along the way, they come under heavy fire, but massive American airstrikes pummel the riverbank and clear their path. Hambleton has lost 40 pounds, but he has survived. Colonel Hambleton retired from the Air Force 9 months later and has spent the past 30 years with his wife.
I'm a firm believer the man upstairs, he's got a checklist. Your name is on it, my name is on it, and that name will be there until your day comes up. As soon as that day comes up, if the good Lord says, Ham, you're going, I'll go.
The Bat-21 rescue inspires PJ students to this very day.